Hey everybody, welcome back to Repairing This Shattered with Sharon Hicks. And today, you've been very gracious to want to talk about my book, Soul Audit, that I wrote. There it is. I got a copy right here too. We all have copies. You can get a copy as well on Amazon, wherever books are sold, or over at kirksheppard.com, or if you come to the office, I have a few copies there too. Thanks for being willing to chat about it.
Oh, of course. I love it. I'm so proud of you.
Thanks.
This is beautiful.
What do you you've read it or most of it? What
Yep.
what do you think from your perspective? What's resonating about it? What do you think people should read it?
So, what I love about your writing, Kirk, is so personable. You share stories, you weave real life examples, and you invite people in to look at their own story. And as it relates to Soul Audit, you break it down into bite-sized chunks. You demystify what feels like some of the big questions that people are asking about themselves. So yeah, I have a lot of highlighters, a lot of highlighted passages in here.
Good.
So I said we need to get on here and talk about it.
Well, I wrote it because I sat in session one day, and one day I said the same thing 4 times in a row, like 4 different clients in a row. I said the exact same thing, and I thought, this is silly. I need to write this down. And I had been writing weekly blogs for several years, and so I already had a lot of material, and I was able to put that together and sort of organize it and crank the book out in 3.5 weeks, which
So amazing.
tells me that it needed to come out of me, right? It was
Yeah.
something that was living in there that needed to come out. And I use this analogy all the time that I think when people are out of alignment, it's like when your car is out of alignment, your mileage goes up, your tires wear down faster, your car wears out. Same is true of our soul. And I don't say soul like a religious connotation necessarily, just the essence of who we are is our soul. And if it's not lining up correctly with our actions and behaviors or other things, you're going to feel depressed, anxious, worn down, tired. And so this book, this audit process that I sort of walk people through, gives them an opportunity to sort of align and get themselves in a place where they can do that. And several different domains. I really like to start with values alignment and talk about how there are several types of values that you can subscribe to. And we aren't judging any values. Like, this isn't a judgment process, it's a prioritization process and an awareness process. So we start with values, and we talk about things like grief and performance versus authenticity and knowing where you came from and seeing if that still aligns with who you want to be now. And just, in practical, hopefully some funny, humorous stories and some application at the end. But everything that I do is going to be more abstract and qualified with a maybe, because I've learned that humility is not knowing everything. The opposite of humility is certainty. I've got another book coming out about that. But knowing that I don't know enough to be an authority, just somebody who's living and figuring it out with you and can kind of write good.
Well, I think that's what comes out clearly. I mean, your first chapter is nothing to be afraid of, and a lot of people, when they're looking at their stories, can think about, there can be so much. Where do we start? And fear can be the first thing. And so you start your book with like, hey, there's nothing to be afraid of. Like, this is all.
People hear the word audit and they get nervous because that at your work, you hear audit, usually you're in trouble. And I've always thought, though, when I would take over a new team and there was an audit, I was thrilled because somebody else was going to find the problems for me. So I think of an audit more like a flashlight than a checklist or a problem. It's illuminating things that just need to be corrected. So I thought that was an interesting analogy to use as sort of a title to go through this process of understanding who we are. Really, it's a book about just knowing yourself, right? And as therapists, the very first rule is know thyself. If you don't know who you are, you're going to take stuff into the room as a counselor, and you're going to affect the work that you do. And so being able to align personally has been very, very important in the work that I do. And then helping people do that for themselves seems to really be helpful as clients start navigating why are they anxious or why are they depressed. And sometimes it's brain chemistry. Sometimes it needs to be medicated. But a lot of times it's because they're out of alignment and they aren't living the way they want to.
Well, and I know having you in my life, helping from a business perspective, and also in a space where giving others permission. You're leaning in and asking me some of these questions and holding space for, hey, what is or isn't working? Where are you in alignment? Where aren't you? And it definitely, I always get that sense there's not a shame associated with it. And
Yeah.
yet our own stories bump up against each other. And so you and I have even had conversations where you're like, hey, this isn't a judgment, or this isn't like making explicit
Yeah.
what like it's implicit,
It's an
where you can say,
observation
yeah,
usually.
that's
And yeah.
exactly
Are you
it.
aware that this happens or that you do this
Yeah,
thing? Or,
exactly. And
yeah.
in real time, like that's where change happens. That's where that self-reflection, introspection in community, and that space where, hey, we're getting curious
Yeah.
about what's happening there, while also inviting others to get curious about their own space and stories.
I always say
Um,
feedback is a gift, and sometimes it comes wrapped up in newspaper, like my mom used to do when Santa would bring presents, and sometimes it comes wrapped up in a nice bow. And I try to wrap it in a nice bow, but sometimes it has to be a newspaper,
right. Sometimes it has to be a newspaper.
or maybe just handed it to you, not without a wrapper at all. It's just how it works.
It is just sometimes how it works, isn't it? Well, when you talk about some of those other um, things about that have been values that have been handed down to
Mm,
us, um, I think one other thing I really love about your writing is that you make it extremely personal for the reader,
mm,
to introspective, to do that work internally while making it applicable in relational. So the stories that you share help invite that curiosity for self. So someone who's
sure.
maybe a little bit like unsure about, I don't even know where to start.
Hmm.
I know I've heard some clients to take a look, to pick it up, to be able to read through, because it really does provide a foundation for, like you said, in the work that you're doing with people every day.
Yeah.
If we can help give some language and help provide resourcing in a way
Just a
that's
little bit of structure, right? No, not a lot, because I'm not that kind of therapist. I really am a very kind of abstract, process driven. Everybody's different. What's figured out for you, kind of thing. But to have for values, for example, that's the very first step usually. So having a language around different kinds of values, right? I think there's five kinds. There's actual; those are the ones we're actually living. Those are the ones that we are sometimes struggle the most to identify, which is interesting.
yeah. Yep.
Aspirational are the easy ones to identify. Those are the ones that we think we value or want
That's
to
right.
value. I mean, I always tell people that I value saving money, but if you looked at my bank account, you'd call me a liar, right? It's
Mm-hmm.
aspirational versus actual. I actually value having a great time and spending all the money. Trying to realign that and prioritize differently, but in reality, I have to just accept that that's not really a value that I hold. It's one I aspire to. But there's also inherited values. There's things you get from your parents or your culture. There are unconscious values, things that you don't even know you value that you act out of in life, good or bad. And then there's the haunting values. Those are things that you may have shaken off, but still give you a little twinge of shame sometimes. For instance, on Easter Sunday, it's not unusual for me to feel a little bit guilt not being in church, even though I
Mm-hmm.
know that's okay that I'm not there. Right. And
Yeah.
so being able to identify those, and especially the aspirational and the actual, and understanding where those butt up against each other is really important, because if you don't know that, you're going to be misaligned in the way you behave, and you're going to have guilt over things you may not have guilt about. If you just realize that we're not judging the values and we're also just reprioritizing them sometimes when they are conflicting, that's a whole different way of living than feeling bad about who we are because we didn't measure up to somebody else's standard.
Absolutely. Absolutely. The way that you phrase that, even very inviting and non-shaming. It's a total paradigm shift.
Yeah, I think the book is it's the best thing I've ever written, and I hope that people will check it out. It's available again on Amazon and kirksheppard.com. I'll even autograph it for you. Or if you want
Yay.
to come to Louisville this weekend, I'm at the Louisville Book Festival, and
Oh,
we'd
awesome.
love to see you there, and we'll sign it. Yeah, sign yours.
There it
I'm
is.
not
Right
sure.
there.
You might even be in that one. You're in several of my books in various ways. I don't know if you're in that one
I'm
or not.
excited. When you said that you have another one that's in the works, we've got to get this book club going
Well,
here, because
yeah.
they
I
are
mean,
so full of rich content, and we need to keep up. Here we
this one
go.
comes out
Oh,
November
there you go.
11th. This is a good Christmas gift. This is a 52-week non-religious devotional all about humility.
Oh, I love it.
That's going to be
I'm
available
so.
soon too. But thanks for letting me talk about it. It's one of my favorite
Oh,
things,
of course.
and we'll be
Thank
back
you.
for more next week right here on Repairing the Shattered. See y'all.
This podcast is for educational and entertainment purposes only. The information provided by Sharon Hicks and Kirk Sheppard should not be considered clinical advice.
For more information about Sharon Hicks and Kintsukuroi counseling, go to sharonhicks.net.